My name is Kaitlin, and I'm a second-year medical student at the University of Ottawa. And this year I had the opportunity to serve as our VP Philanthropy for the Asclepian Medical Student Council, or otherwise known as ASOC. So in this role I have the opportunity to plan a lot of different philanthropy initiatives. And one thing that was brand new that I really wanted to bring to the role was something we called UO Serves, as you mentioned, which is short for U Ottawa Serves. So historically, or in the past, the VP Philanthropy portfolio has had a presence during orientation week. They've engaged students in fundraising for Shinerama, which raises money for cystic fibrosis. And many students come into medical school having participated in this throughout their undergrad degree and are familiar with Shinerama before. And we by no means wanted to get rid of Shinerama from our orientation week. We still kept Shinerama as something we fundraise for and engage students in raising money for. But we realized that over the years, unfortunately, and as expected, we really did notice a decrease in student engagement and excitement about kind of just fundraising throughout their orientation week and raising money and asking friends and family for money. And so we wanted to also provide an alternative way for students to participate in philanthropic initiatives throughout orientation week, so that they weren't only feeling like they had to give money, but instead, if they were unable to give money, they could give their time. And one thing we really wanted to reiterate to students was that we want to let them know that as ASOC, we recognize that as students, we're not always in a position to be able to give our money, but what we're more so able to do as students is to give our time. And that through that kind of motto, that's really how UO Serves came to be, because it allowed us to plan an orientation week that had Shinerama fundraising going on, allowing students to give their money if they felt they were able to, and ask friends and family for money, and also to have UO Serves as well as this initiative where students could give back their time. So here at Ottawa, like many other medical schools in Ontario, we have a mandatory community service learning program, or CSL, that runs throughout our first year of medical school and pairs students with an organization that they complete a certain number of hours with throughout the year. And I know for myself, when I went through my first year, one thing I noticed was that unless you really had some sort of personal connection with an organization already coming into Ottawa, or maybe you grew up here in Ottawa or did school here, it was quite hard for students to choose an organization that fit well with their passions from just a 1 or 2 line description through the online portal that we chose from. And so with that being said, that kind of motivated us again to create UO Serves, because it allowed us to choose 12 different organizations, many of which are part of our CSL program here in Ottawa that students can volunteer with throughout the year. And it allowed us to match up students to these organizations and really give them a chance to volunteer, form connections with that organization, and really see what they were passionate about while volunteering. Or maybe see if maybe that organization didn't quite meet their goals of what they were hoping to get out of their CSL for the year. And that's okay too, because UO Serves allowed them to discover that. And we truly feel that by allowing students to build those connections with organizations and through early exposure to those organizations right from the start of orientation week, and further through a really positive experience where they were making new friends and meeting new people in their class and they were excited to be there, we felt that those things would just generate a lot more excitement and engagement in the CSL curriculum that we have here at the medical school. So that's something that we were really excited to bring to our orientation week this year. So what this initiative is it's basically a afternoon of orientation week where students go out and give back to their U Ottawa community. So we worked throughout the summer to contact 12 different organizations that 12 different orientation week teams would be sent out to during the afternoon of UO Serves. So each orientation week team, or O-week team, was made up of first year medical students as well as second year medical students who were there as volunteer leaders. And each of the 12 teams had about 15 to 20 different students on them. And on that first day of orientation week, when UO Serves took place, in the afternoon, students were sent to 12 different organizations in the Ottawa area that we had previously contacted. So these different organizations included the Ottawa Mission, the Ottawa Food Bank Community Harvest Centre, Habitat for Humanity, the Ottawa Salvation Army Ottawa Booth Centre, as well as Canadian Blood Services, Ronald McDonald House, Stopgap, and then Boys and Girls Club, Shepherds of Good Hope, as well as the AIDS Committee of Ottawa. And throughout the summer, when we were in contact with these organizations, either over the phone or over email or even going in person to check out the space and the place itself, we really worked with the volunteer coordinators to try and figure out some sort of task that was going to be really beneficial to the clients at this organization, but that was also going to allow students to work in small teams of 2 or 3 to really bond with these other students that they were meeting on that first day of orientation week. So to give you kind of more of an example of what some of those different tasks looked like, so for the team that was sent to Ronald McDonald House, they were tasked with baking for the families staying at the Ronald McDonald House while their kids received treatment at the nearby Children's Hospital. For the team sent to Shepherds of Good Hope, they were able to cook, prepare, and serve a meal to clients staying there. The team that was sent to the Ottawa Food Bank Community Harvest Program was able to plant different crops, harvest different crops like eggplant and beans, and then process these crops so that they could be shipped to the Ottawa Food Bank and used to prepare meals for those in need. And lastly, for the team of students that was sent to Stopgap, they were able to work with volunteers at the Ottawa Tool Library to build 10 ramps for 10 previously non-accessible buildings here in Ottawa, that now with these ramps were now accessible to many different new patrons and more patrons than they were before. So it was a single afternoon that students were able to help out, but it really allowed them to kind of get to know their new Ottawa community, and it was kind of one of many ways we worked throughout our orientation week to really help Ottawa feel like home for a lot of the new students coming to the city. Yeah, so definitely when establishing UO Serves, the major challenges were logistical for us. So as I mentioned before, UO Serves was really all about bonding, and what better way to encourage bonding among a brand new set of students who maybe don't know a lot of other people in their class yet than on that very first day of orientation week. And so we knew that that's when we wanted UO Serves to take place. And with that had its own challenges. Just like many other medical schools across the country, orientation week generally starts on that Labor Day or long weekend. And so for many of the organizations we reached out to, they just weren't as receptive to having volunteers on that weekend. Many of their staff were going to be there. It posed a little bit of a, many of their staff weren't going to be there, so it was a little bit harder to have someone that was for sure going to be present to facilitate the volunteer experience, to be there as a resource to students. And so it meant that we were contacting hundreds of different organizations to finally settle on the 12 that were really happy to take part in our initiative. And further, in addition to just the timing challenges of UO Serves throughout orientation week, as you can imagine, with 12 different organizations, each one had its kind of own unique abilities to accommodate volunteers. And for some organizations, 15 to 20 students was just too many for what they were used to. And as you can imagine, for others, 15 to 20 students was too few to be able to accomplish something that was helpful and beneficial to that organization. So it really involved us as the planners being quite flexible and working with volunteer coordinators throughout the summer to brainstorm and come up with multiple tasks for students placed at that organization that were not only going to keep students busy and engaged throughout that day, but were also going to actively benefit the organization and its clients as well. great question. There's a few things that we've done to ensure that UOSERVS keeps on running year after year. The first being that we've incorporated UOSERVS into our constitution as ASOC, or the Aesculapian Society. So it was unanimously voted among ASOC members that we put UOSERVS as part of the VP Philanthropy portfolio, so that each successive VP Philanthropy will have the responsibility of planning UOSERVS throughout orientation week. And so this is really great for us next year, because I'll be here in the summer working with the new incoming VP Philanthropy to kind of transition the role to her and be here for guidance as well to keep the initiative running. Further, one thing that I made sure to do when creating this new initiative was, as I mentioned before, we reached out to hundreds of different organizations, and for some, they were really interested in the initiative, but it just wasn't going to be feasible in terms of the timing for them that year. And so I always made sure to ask if I could keep their contact information and contact them again next year to see if they were interested in this potential collaboration. And so I think we're at a really great place for next year, because we have all the organizations that participated last year and the ones that responded to us with great feedback about the event and expressed an interest to re-collaborate again this year. And then we also have those extra organizations that we will now be contacting ahead of time and with kind of more time until the event to be able to make something work. So for the past 6 years now, I've been a volunteer at the Ronald McDonald House. It was something I loved doing throughout my undergrad, and something that I continued doing when I moved here to Ottawa. It was actually the kind of first extracurricular that I got involved with when I started med school, and it was a great way to keep interacting with kids, which I love, interact with families, get better at baking. Still not that great, but it's really helped Ottawa feel a lot more like home, which I've enjoyed. And other than that, I like intramurals. I've played intramural dodgeball since the start of med school. I'm a great sacrifice for our team. I get hit first every time. And I've also played a lot of intramural soccer as well. I love how here in Ottawa we're so close to Gatineau. It's super easy to just go for a hiking trip on the weekend, go camping for a weekend. I love kind of being outdoors. I try to get outdoors whenever I can. And the last thing I'd say is I love trying new things, and any kind of long weekend we get in med school, I love going to a place I've never been before. So it's great to kind of keep you motivated and get you refreshed. And the last thing I'd say is that I really like traveling to new places. Any kind of long weekend we get, I love trying to go somewhere new that I haven't been before. It's a great way to kind of get refreshed and keep your motivation up for what's to come.